Welcome to the IT Career Energizer podcast. For anyone who wants to build and grow a career in IT, develop and improve your strengths and skills, be inspired and motivated by the successes of others, manage your career progression, and achieve your IT career goals. And now, your host, Phil Burgess.
Welcome to this week's episode of the IT Career Energizer podcast. I just wanted to take a moment to mention a couple of things. If you haven't visited the website recently, it may be worth your while to pop across and check out itcareerenergizer.com. If you haven't been there for a while, you'll see that we've completely redesigned the website and very much hope that you find it much more intuitive and usable. Secondly, we're coming up towards the 300th episode of the show, and it's the ideal opportunity to review how the podcast started, where it is now, and where it's going. So I'm beginning to think about what we're going to do with the podcast after it reaches episode 300. If you have any thoughts, I'd be delighted to hear them. I'd also like to ask that you make sure you're subscribed to the show, and if you enjoy it, tell others about the show so they can subscribe. As far as today's episode is concerned, I've managed to get on a guest that I've been hoping to bring onto the show for quite some time. If you're a Python enthusiast or thinking about getting started with Python, this is a great episode to listen into. So without further ado, here's this week's episode. Welcome to episode 289 of the IT Career Energizer podcast. My guest on today's show is a professional developer who teaches programming to kids and adults. As well as being a speaker at Python conferences, he has written several best-selling programming books for beginners, including Automate the Boring Stuff with Python, Invent Your Own Computer Games with Python, Cracking Codes with Python, and Coding with Minecraft. So it's my pleasure to welcome to the podcast, Al Sweigart.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So, Al, that was very much a view of your sort of your Python interests and your books. But could you perhaps tell us a little bit about what you're up to at the moment?
So right now, I've just come out with Beyond the Basic Stuff with Python, which is sort of a book aimed at the intermediate level. I think there's a lot of beginner tutorials out there, and then there's plenty of books and materials for advanced users. But there's this part where a lot of people are learning to program, and they understand the syntax and they understand basic coding concepts. But when they sit down to actually write a piece of software to do something, they're sort of left staring at this blank editor and not really knowing, sort of how do real programmers write code? And there's this large anxiety about that, where it's like, am I doing this the right way? And so I tried to write a book that tackles that head on, so sort of aiming at that intermediate crowd. And it took me a long time to sort of figure out what would go into a book like that, especially something that revolves around Python, because I still wanted to stick with Python since that's my area of expertise. And yeah, the book went through several changes. I looked back on the original GitHub repo, or the Git repo that I set up for it, and I started this about 3 years ago. But then,
Right.
and then the writing really all came through in the last year or so. But yeah, so now when people say I've read Automate the Boring Stuff with Python, what should I read next? I finally have an answer for them.
Right, yeah, so I was just about to ask the question, actually. So that is a natural follow-on from the Automate the Boring Stuff with Python book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I've finished the book. It's out now, and right now I'm working on an online course that sort of follows along with the book's content, just for people who would rather prefer to at least get an introduction to the book by watching someone work through the code in it and cover the concepts there.
Sure. So I'm aware of your YouTube channel as well, and I know you've done a number of videos that support your book. So that will be similar content, presumably.
Oh yeah, the online course doesn't really cover as much as the book does, and in fact, the videos for the course are more of an advertisement for the book than anything. But a lot of people have reached out to me saying that they appreciate seeing somebody. It's all just screen recordings, but actually seeing somebody type the code in, just to get that reassurance that they're doing things the correct way when they're making their way through the book.
Exactly. I think people do learn in different ways, don't they? And different forms of content, can really help sort of make sure those ideas and those learnings actually sink in and are understandable. So I think that's a really good way of doing things.
Yeah.
Okay, Al, can you maybe share with us a career tip, one that the audience may not be aware of and perhaps should be?
Oh, this is something I definitely wish I had known when I first started out. Um, I was fairly fortunate to do the fairly straightforward path of majoring in computer science for college and getting my degree in that. But even, no matter if you have a degree or what you have a degree in, I really wish somebody had explained that the requirements that people have for IT and software developer jobs, they'll say that they have like a hard requirement of 5 years experience with such and such. But really, you can mostly ignore that. I mean, obviously, if you're a junior developer, you shouldn't just sign on for some advanced senior position. But don't automatically disqualify yourself just because you don't have experience in this one particular area or with this one piece of software or something like that. Um, yeah, a lot of times these requirements are written up more by HR or by management, and they may or may not be reflective of the actual career. So don't let that discourage you in your job search.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think you'll find, I mean, from my experience, I've seen job descriptions that are so specific and probably the ideal candidate may not even exist. It's that sort of situation. So they're looking at the best that they can get for the skill sets they're advertising for. But
Yeah.
yeah, as you say, there's no reason if you've got sort of 70-80% of the skill set yourself already, there's no reason why you shouldn't apply.
Yeah. In my more cynical moments, I'll say that most tech companies are looking for 20-year-olds with 30 years of experience who will work for $10 an hour. That's their ideal
Yes.
candidate.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually with a technology that's been around for 2 years and asking for 5 years experience, it's those sort of things, isn't it?
That's a classic joke that keeps coming up again and again.
Cool. Okay, right. So, Al, can you share with us your worst IT career moment and what you learned from that experience?
Oh, yes. Fortunately, this wasn't very large stakes. This happened when I was at an internship, and there was a web application where it's a simple calendar for the client's website. And I was making modifications to the SQL database that the calendar pulled all of its information from. And I was typing the delete query out to remove some old listings, and I forgot to type the where clause. So I accidentally deleted everything from the calendar, and I didn't have a backup of any of that, and no backup really existed. Fortunately, I was able to find some old saved web pages, and so I could manually copy a lot of the calendar events back in. And I don't think anybody ever found out about that. But
Right. So a bit of a reconstruction
yeah,
of the database.
this was a big lesson to me of don't really just work directly on the production database and also make a backup of any data that you're messing with
Yep.
before you start messing with this. I have a part in Automate the Boring Stuff with Python where I recommend just creating a backup of any files that you're working on when you're writing a script that works on these files, and also just maybe commenting out the code that actually does the file deletions or the file renamings. Just and then just do a dry run. Just add some print statements in there instead, just so that you can see what it's doing, and then do a for real run. I feel like a lot of people who are learning to program are really worried about breaking their computer, and for them, 99% of the time, you won't. Your program can crash; it's going to be fine. But once you start actually making changes to files on your hard drive or making changes to a database, that's when it can become a little bit risky.
Indeed. Yeah, that's when you need backups, definitely. ways to restore.
Yeah, that was I think I did that mistake with the calendar database like first thing in the morning. And so the rest of my morning was just sort of panicky, like trying to find all the events that were originally on this calendar. And my coworkers asked if I wanted to go out to lunch with them, and I was like, I'm busy, but yeah, maybe tomorrow or later.
Yeah. So presumably it was only a matter of hours it was out for.
Right? Yeah. It wasn't. I don't think anybody even noticed. Fortunately, so this wasn't that high stakes, but was a very important lesson.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to move on now. So could you perhaps tell us about your career highlight to date?
Really, I think it's automate the boring stuff with Python. I I remember writing in my diary, and I was just going back through that one day, and I saw one entry from when I was writing that book, and I said something like, "I have no idea if this is going to be a worthwhile project at all," and then it turned out to be this huge success that I'm still astonished by. How many people I'll talk about Python with them, and they'll bring up the book that I wrote. Um, so, and I don't mind that. That's sort of, even if that turns out to be the peak of my career, that's now in the past. I still feel pretty genuinely proud of producing that. It was a lot of luck and fortunate happenstance and a lot of hard work as well. But the fact that all came together, um, I'm just really glad that I was able to write something and release it under a Creative Commons license, so it's free for other people to read online and really help them with their careers.
Yeah, so you just mentioned the fact that it's available free online. Can you maybe just point people in the right direction as to where they can get access?
Yeah, it's the website is inventwithpython.com. You'll find all of my books I've released under a Creative Commons license, so it is free to download and copy and share with others as well.
Yeah, and alternatively, presumably you can get the hard copy if you like from
Yes.
Amazon and whoever it may be.
Yeah, and nostarch.com for No Starch Press is the publisher of it. I really recommend them because if you buy a print book through them, you also get the ebook copies for free
Right.
as
Yeah.
well. So that really helps when you just want to control F and find some particular part in it. But a lot of people still do prefer just holding the paper book in their hand still.
Yeah. So do you know how many copies are being accessed, downloaded, and sold?
I think between the number of print copies and ebook copies are about the same, and I have this information. I'm gonna just look this
Nearly at
up.
your fingertips.
Yeah, I think it is over a quarter million
Wow.
print and ebook copies sold.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear. So I heard a stat today that the average book that is published typically only sells no more than 1,000 copies. So to be at what, quarter of a million?
Yeah,
That is phenomenal. That is some outcome.
yeah, and then on top, I get tens of thousands of visitors to the website as well, and um, it's just really amazing how the internet uh, makes it so easy to just share this information once it's created. I pay about $15 a month for my web host, and even if I had 10 times the amount of traffic, I still wouldn't hit the bandwidth limits. Um, it's just is it never fails to astonish me.
Good. Right. So, Al, what excites you about the future of the IT industry and careers in IT in particular?
What's really great is how much more accessible it's becoming, um, especially with languages like Python and new tools that are aimed at making programming easier to do, and just more awareness that programming is something that you don't have to be a rocket scientist in order to do. It's something that a hobbyist can do, or just any office worker can learn a little bit of scripting or coding and be able to produce practical little programs that can actually help them with their job. It's When I was learning how to program as a kid in the 90s, I basically had about two books that I found in the school library that sort of helped me. And then I also had the the manual for the basic programming language, which I couldn't make heads or tails of at all. It was just a very like a technical document that was more reference than anything. And I wanted to learn how to make Super Mario Brothers on the computer, but this did not help me at all to do that. But these days, we have Google and Wikipedia and Stack Overflow and lots of YouTube tutorials and things like that. And I see that trend continuing with the programming tools geared towards kids to help them learn programming concepts, things like Scratch, that are that are still, they're not like dumbing down programming. These are actual programming tools, and but they're also being made much more accessible to more people.
Okay, we're going to move into the reveal round now. We're going to find out a little bit more about you and the way you think. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
So, what first attracted you to a career in IT?
Nintendo. The 8-bit Nintendo that my sister and I got for Christmas, with Super Mario Brothers and The Legend of Zelda. And I feel like video games and is a really common path into programming for a lot of kids, and it certainly was for me. And that's sort of the approach I take for with a lot of my books as well.
And what's the best career advice you've ever received?
Don't be afraid to give bad news, especially early on. I think one of the sort of a moment where I realized that I was actually becoming a professional was when I was sitting in a meeting. This was one of my first jobs after college, and the project manager was asking when this feature that I was working on would be done, and the deadline was in a week. And I knew that it was going to be late, and so I said it's going to be 3 weeks. And the project manager pushed back, is like, well, could we maybe get that done by the deadline? And I stood firm, because if I told him what he wanted to hear, I would just be telling him a week later, yeah, actually, it's going to be 2 weeks late. Just from all of the work that I had done previously, I knew, like, well, it's going to need another 3 weeks actually. And I was proud of myself for telling him that then, instead of once were actually on the deadline itself. It's like, oh yeah, there's going to be another 2 weeks. So even though it was news that he didn't want to hear, um, and it also sort of reflected poorly on me, because it was just getting behind. It was, in the long run, the right call to make, to inform him of this.
Yeah, I think there's a useful thing to come out of that, and I totally agree with you. Um, but I think when you do deliver bad news, it's often very useful to have the justification understood. You can actually explain exactly why and what the reasons are and the timescales behind it to sort of make sure that they understand. Otherwise, you do inevitably get the pushback, or
Right.
someone will just say, "Yeah, oh no, no, we can deliver it. Don't, it won't be a problem." But if you know and you've got the reasons and you can articulate that clearly, then you're in a much better position.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Slightly more difficult question, perhaps. What is the worst career advice you've ever received?
Okay, this might draw some fire from me, some fire onto me, but probably the worst career advice I ever received was that I should go to grad school and get a master's degree in computer science. Um, this was a person who had nothing but good intentions for me, but for my particular career path, that wasn't uh, something that would have been beneficial to me. It's sort of it's. I feel grad school is very useful if you know what you want to do that requires a graduate degree. But if it's especially for IT and software development in general, if you just feel like you need to get a master's degree just to have a master's degree, that may work out for you, or it might not change anything at all, and then you're just 2 years older with and just even further behind in your career path. So grad school is a good idea if you know what you want to do with a graduate degree.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's a good example that, in particular, of where you can receive a lot of advice, and it's really down to you to decide and assess whether that advice is right for you, because it may be right for somebody else, but may not be for you at that particular point in time.
Yeah, one of my friends, she got a degree in computer science from Stanford and then got a master's in computer science in Stanford. And so when she was out looking for a job, she basically had her pick because of her degrees and where she went to school, and she got a job at a startup. And she tells me later, yeah, they really just need a web app. They like all of her machine learning knowledge and everything wasn't actually directly applicable. Having her degrees did get her foot in the door as one of the founding engineers for this startup. But at the same time, really, they just needed Ruby on Rails or something like that.
Yeah. That's often the case, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If you were to begin your career again in today's world, what would you do?
I sometimes worry that I might not. One of the great things about learning to program just way back in the in the old days of the 1990s was that I feel like the expectations were so much lower back then. You could be a single programmer on your own, and if you were a teenager and you made Tetris, that would be a really great accomplishment, or even some text adventure game. But now when you talk about software development, everybody is familiar with the internet and is using social media all the time. It's part of their lives. It's not just nerds hanging out in chat rooms anymore. And so when people think of software development, they're thinking of AI and self-driving cars and social media websites with millions of users. And that's incredibly intimidating, I feel. And I I've noticed I've written books for kids and for adults, and I feel like teaching kids to program is much easier because even though it's more difficult for them to grasp and learn all the concepts, they don't have this fear that programming is something that they're not smart enough for. Whereas a lot of adults sort of immediately disqualify themselves. So if I had to start all over again, I sometimes worry that I might not.
Right. Okay. Um, and Al, what career objectives are you currently focused on?
Oh man, I have a whole list of projects that I work on right now. When I left my job as a software engineer to finish writing Automate the Boring Stuff with Python, I just wanted to take a year off to finish writing that book, and I thought I would just get another software engineering job after that. But then I started writing another book, and then another book after that, and now it's as long as I can keep this book writing scam going, it's great. I don't have to get a real job again. Um, but yeah, so right now I'm also working on a book that focuses on recursion and recursive algorithms. This is another topic that I feel like a lot of people are intimidated by or
Yeah.
think is beyond them. Um,
I think the words in
and
themselves will scare people.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's recursion is sort of one of those topics, and for those who don't know, put very simply, a recursive function is a function that calls itself, and there's nothing too spectacularly special that you can always write a non-recursive function to do whatever a recursive function does. Um, but if you want to show off how smart you are, you can always write a recursive function to do something. Your coworkers will probably have a harder time understanding your code, but yeah. So I wanted to write an entire book about this and go over several different recursive algorithms and sort of also bring up the fact that you don't always have to use a recursive algorithm in order to do something spectacular, but they are often used, I think, more than anything in programming interviews. Um, I've encountered this zinger myself, where the interviewer for the technical interview is asking me to write some code, and then they ask me to write the recursive algorithm of this, and it's from a practicality standpoint, there's no real reason to require that, but it's something and if you're not familiar with recursion, or if it's something that intimidates you, it can really trip you up in an interview context. Uh, Whether or not you actually ever use recursive functions in your day-to-day job at all.
Exactly, yes. Okay, and what's the number one non-technical skill that has helped you in your career so far?
Oh, being able to, I mean, communication seems like the really standard answer to this, but communication skills really is it. It's whether you're writing emails or replying to emails, or if you're giving a presentation during a meeting, being able to not only express yourself well and convey the ideas that you have, but also how to listen to other people and understand what they're trying to communicate to you as well. Um, I keep bringing up this with other programmers over and over again. You know, it doesn't really matter how fancy your code is, or how elegant your algorithms, or whatever. It doesn't. All of that stuff doesn't really matter if you end up writing software that nobody needs, because you didn't realize what people actually wanted out of this software that you're writing for them. So yeah, communication, just both listening skills and talking, and just being able to also empathize with the other person's current position and understand the difficulties they're facing, because that's how you find out how you can address the problems that they have, and solve them.
Indeed, yeah, there's a lot in there, and you're right, definitely. And what do you do to keep your own career energized?
Oh, I definitely try to keep in touch with other members of the Python community. Most of that right now these days is, of course, just through Twitter. But back in the before times, PyCon was an excellent conference to go to.
Yes.
I highly recommend it. Even if people are just sort of beginning their path, it's a great place to just meet really friendly people. And the Python community is really excellent. PyCon was one of the first technical conferences that I ever went to, and I had such a great time. I thought, oh, I should start going to other conferences, and and that's how I found out that a lot of other technical conferences are mostly sort of uh, vendors wanting to sell you things, and and that sort of thing. But PyCon, being a more community focused conference, is a great way, not just to learn new things about the Python language, but also just to meet and network with really great people. I tell people, you don't have to see every single talk. You can just skip some, and just continue chatting in the hallway with people if you're having a really great conversation. And PyCon is really excellent for that.
That's great to hear. And what do you do in your spare time away from technology?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. um, I I mean, I so uh, just writing software and then writing books about software. All of these things are things that I started first as hobbies and then turned into a career.
Yeah.
Um, but I also like to do. I've gotten started with some digital illustration as well. Just with a Wacom tablet, and making some drawings, and working with Photoshop more. And then the non-technical hobbies I have currently, I'm getting more and more into origami as well. A friend of mine had pointed out, though, that the one thing that all of these have in common is that they're really cheap hobbies. It's like, yeah, I have a computer and free software and paper, and that's keeping me entertained.
Brilliant. Okay. Al, can you share with us a parting piece of career advice?
So the main thing when I'm teaching people to program is that a lot of times, I think the reason I've been able to reach so many people and teach them to code is that I kind of understand that the main difficulty with learning to program isn't the programming itself so much as just the intimidation that comes with it. People are really afraid of failure. They're afraid of feeling dumb or looking dumb. And, a programming language, a computer is always going to make you feel dumb all the time. It's just going to spit some error message out at you whenever you do something that's the slightest bit wrong. And I feel like, this might not sound very hopeful, but my best advice is to just sort of get used to it. Get used to feeling not clever and not smart, because it's going to happen more and more. But also, feeling that way is fine, because we all go through that. I don't think I really know that many people who don't have imposter syndrome in this industry. It's such a wide industry, and you can pick any topic in tech, in IT, and spend years and years trying to understand it and never sort of reach the bottom of that ocean. So yeah, it's don't be, it's okay to feel that intimidation, but don't let it discourage you or keep you from accomplishing what it is you want to accomplish.
Indeed. I think it's quite useful then to remember that you may look at somebody like yourself who is very, very well versed in Python, but there was a point when you didn't know anything. And the person who's now picking up one of your books or your course is going to be in exactly the same position that you were before you did. So if you're able to go through those processes and steps to learn what you've learned to get to where you are, there's no reason why somebody else can't do exactly the same.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, Al, can you maybe tell us where we can find out more about you and connect with you?
So my main website is inventwithpython.com. I also have a very plain looking webpage at alsweigart.com as well, that has direct links to my GitHub repos and my YouTube channel and my Twitter account and the books that I've written as well. So between those two websites, you can find out nearly all about me. Probably the easiest way to get in touch with me is either through my Twitter account, I'm just at Al Sweigart, or through email with al@inventwithpython.com.
Al, it's been great chatting with you. Really wonderful. And thanks for taking part. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been great.
So it's my great thanks to Al Sweigart for being the guest on this week's episode. If you head across to the IT Career Energizer website, you'll find an episode-specific page, including various links to Al's social media, website, YouTube channel, and access to his free book, Automate the Boring Stuff with Python. The show will be back in a week's time with another great guest, and I hope you join me then. In the meantime, have a great week.
Thanks for listening to the IT Career Energizer podcast. To find out more about building a successful career in IT, visit itcareerenergizer.com.